British industry in all its forms. And certainly speaking to people on the ground, they felt that that mission was accomplished.
Rebecca English there. Richard Eden, William and Catherine spent 2 days promoting Scottish heritage traditions like curling, weaving and, of course, drinking pints in the pub. Is that peculiar to Scotland? But we know you're all dying to know, did William wear tartan?
I'm afraid not.
Oh.
And what that means from what I've said in this programme before is I don't have to wear a kilt either, because I said I would only wear one if Prince William wore one.
Yes, but you've teased your fans now with that AI image at Christmas. You've tantalised, you've shown what could be.
I think it's because William wanted to emphasise his wife's beautiful tartan coat, and perhaps it would have looked a bit too much.
Matchy. They haven't been opposed to matchy in the past. But
no, but maybe he thought it wouldn't look good.
He really doesn't want to wear one.
He's always made a point of not wearing a kilt. Not quite clear why he doesn't like them so much, but he obviously doesn't. And I think that's fair enough. Come on, you don't want to sort of bully him into doing something he doesn't want to do.
Yeah, I know, but if it's good enough for Claudia Winkleman, who looks great in a kilt on Traitors, surely. But anyway, for now, Richard Kay, for our international viewers, what are the Prince and Princess of Wales known as in Scotland, and what's the difference? What's the significance?
Well, north of the border, north of the England border, they're known as the Duke and Duchess of Rothesay. It's a title which dates back to when Scotland was an entirely separate kingdom before the union with England, which I think was in 1707. And the title descends from that given to one of the first kings of Scotland gave to his eldest son, and it's descended ever since the early 14th century.
Fascinating. Thank you for the facts. Richard Eden, there was, the Prince and Princess of Wales always love to get stuck in with their hands on at these visits, don't they? And Princess of Wales did some weaving of tartan, her beloved tartan, but with them, a lot of people got excited by something that William did, didn't they?
Well, I think that you're referring to he just took Catherine's coat. It was a very big tartan coat.
It doesn't take much.
She had to remove it to do the weaving, and he, very gentlemanly, took it on his arm and looked after it while she was doing the weaving.
I suppose a lot of people assume the royals have an entourage of people to hold their coats.
Well, they usually do. There's a lot of people travelling with them, and it would be a servant would be on hand to take a coat or a handbag or whatever. But to me, this shows William and Catherine operating as a couple, as a unit, and William's there, the gentleman, always willing to help out.
Well, we'll have more on that in a moment. Did we still call them servants, though?
I don't think they have servants travelling with them.
Really?
And they don't really have an entourage. I mean, she doesn't have ladies in waiting.
That seems hard to believe. They must have some assistants.
Well, there are policemen, of course, and there are the people they're meeting on all these engagements who would step forward and help out. And it was a rare sight to see a royal spouse holding a coat like that, like a cloakroom attendant.
She didn't quite Miranda Priestley it, though, did she? Devil Wears Prada, she just throw it at whichever passing assistant was there.
No, it was folded very neatly, as you can imagine, before she got to work on the weaving.
Delightful. Well, we'll have more on their dynamic in a minute, but I'm aware that I'm pretty much talking to myself here about fashion. These guys don't ever want to talk to me about fashion. It's neither one of their specialties, but we do want to mention the stunning tartan coat that Catherine wore and William ended up holding. It was a bespoke blue tartan coat from menswear tailor Chris Kerr, which was a lovely nod to her Scottish surroundings. Now, obviously, sadly, bespoke means the exact coat is not available to buy for we mere mortals. We know some of our viewers like to dress like the princess, so we wanted to share with you a couple of alternatives, like this statement coat from Barber, another brilliant heritage brand from Britain, this green and red number from Bowden, and this very affordable option from Sea Salt Cornwall. We'll put a link to all of those in the description below. Now, Richard Kay, back to William and Catherine and what I teased in the intro, because a lot of people got excited about what's been dubbed as a PDA, public display of affection, that took place as they were greeting crowds outside that hand-weaving studio in Stirling. We'll put it on screen now, but it was more of a back rub than a big old snog, wasn't it? I mean, it might sound old-fashioned, but it's not that common, is it, to see any physical contact?
It's not. They don't do tactile, the royals, in public, and I think that's what makes it unusual and why we rather like it. Yeah. And frankly, we'd be lost without William and Catherine putting on these displays of intimacy for the cameras from time to time, as they did. I thought it was rather touching, but it was just a gentle back rub. I think it was a reassuring "I'm still here, darling" type of message.
And that wasn't the only gesture, actually. I noticed there was Catherine at one point putting her hand on William's arm.
But it must feel so awkward to even have that interaction in public when you know that people like us are going to sit around and go, oh, you know what I mean? When every single movement is being analysed, that must be such a weird feeling.
I think they have become more tactile, actually,
Yeah.
over the years. And I don't know if what Catherine's been through as well has sort of added to that. But I do think that it's just sort of as they've got older and they've got more relaxed, then it's lovely to see, actually.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I want to ask you, because I know it seems a bit silly to bring it up, but there were a lot of comments via social media and, messages about the status of William and Catherine's marriage. Surely this display should be enough to silence the conspiracists.
Oh, I mean, come on! I don't think William and Catherine don't need to, put on some sort of acts in order to, get rid of this type of speculation. I mean, I think what you might be referring to, stuff I've seen online, it's just weird the way that these rumours go around. There were sort of images of William and the children, I think, getting off a helicopter, and because Catherine wasn't with them, then people were saying this is evidence that they've split up, and it's crazy. You just get one clip of video and people draw all these conclusions.
Again, it's this tribalism, isn't it? It's this, if you're a fan of the Sussexes, then you want to wish ill on the Waleses and vice versa.
Well,
it's
I think
really
you just
strange.
put your finger on it. What tends to happen then is that all these, I would just say, trolls, frankly, of people who are, Harry and Meghan fans, then they seize on everything and say, look at this, and then often it gets kind of increased. And you always wonder, where are these people from? Where's this stuff coming from? It's bizarre.
Yeah.
But all nonsense, of course.
Indeed. Well, the Waleses ended the day at a community pub called the Gothenburg. And we're not even sure that William took a sip of his pint of beer. What do you think, Richard Kay? Is he restrained? Is he doing dry January? What's going on?
Well, I don't think it was beer. I think it might have been cider. He doesn't drink beer, so if it was beer, that would explain why he didn't have any. I had a good look at the videos which came out. It was a minuscule amount was sipped, but that's one thing the royals don't like doing. While they may touch each other and hold hands in public, but they don't like to be seen eating or drinking.
And they don't have to be drunk to touch each other.
And maybe he is doing dry January. He's not a big beer drinker anyway, but it was a very interesting pub because there's a Scottish tradition in public houses, which many of our viewers probably won't know about, where there are these community pubs which use the profits they make from what they sell behind the bar to fund local schemes on the ground, and it's very worthwhile. Food banks, things like that.
It's interesting, isn't it, Richard Eden? I think we all remember that Mike Tyndall teased William, calling him 1 pint Willie, but he might have to change that to no pints Willie. What did you see? Did you scrutinise the footage?
Yeah, I'm not sure he was drinking it at all, but what I did notice was he made comments about how much he loves pubs. And that's genuine. He's been going to pubs since he was a teenager. And it's bizarre to say, but at the moment it's a bit controversial, politically. And the reason is that pub landlords feel really under pressure at the moment. They've had all sorts of... it's become more expensive to run pubs, and recently they've had business rates going up a lot.
Yeah, catastrophically in many cases.
Yeah, and they're getting some rebates now from the government, but it's become quite a political hot potato, and lots of pubs actually have barred Labour MPs from entering their premises. So something innocuous that William said, just how much he loved pubs in this sort of atmosphere at the moment, could almost be seen as a bit controversial.
Well, do you think it was pointed, or...?
I doubt it. I think he was just saying the honest truth, which is that he loves pubs and is always pleased to go one. But it will be seen as lovely solidarity as they are struggling, particularly during January when lots of people
don't drink anyway.
Don't drink.
Now, King Charles, however, did take a sip of something very expensive during his week of engagements. Here's Rebecca again with Charles and Camilla and what they've been up to this week.
King Charles and Queen Camilla have hit the ground running with their first public engagement of 2026. The Majesty started their week in Edinburgh, where the Queen met up with the notoriously naughty cartoon character Dennis the Menace. Her Majesty even found herself immortalised in the Beano comic strip and tried her hand at drawing some of the characters. The event was to publicise the National Year of Reading, literacy being a cornerstone of Queen Camilla's public work. Meanwhile, her husband King Charles was publicising Scottish enterprise by enjoying a wee dram of an £1,800 bottle of whisky. The King said the only disadvantage to the event was that it was never particularly flattering having a picture knocking a drink back. The Majesties then moved their way down south. The King was in London, where he undertook a number of private audiences and a public environmental breakfast event with the President of Indonesia. Today I'm at a secret location with Queen Camilla in Gloucestershire as she visits a domestic abuse centre. Now, Her Majesty has made violence against women a cornerstone of her public work as a member of the royal family for well over a decade. In fact, I was with her when she first visited a rape crisis centre in South London, and again when she went to the charity Safe Lives, where she listened with tears rolling down her face at the stories of families who had loved ones ripped away from them in the most brutal of circumstances. At the time, no member of the royal family had ever taken on a cause like this, and I don't think she herself even knew what to expect. But after learning more about the stories of victims and survivors, she became absolutely determined to do anything she could to help, and has vowed to make this her life's work. She's also made a promise to visit as many domestic abuse charities and centres as she can around the country, and after meeting someone from this particular centre at a garden party last year, she made it her priority as one of her first engagements of 2026.
Now, Richard Kay, there's a suggestion that Camilla made a dig at artificial intelligence. What did you make of that?
Well, I wasn't sure. It could have been a dig at screens generally, because she made a reference to, she was visiting the home of the Beano, which is a classic British comic. And in fact, she drew a very skillful sketch of one of the stars of the comics, dogs, Nasha the dog, that goes around with Dennis the Menace. She commended the script on the strip, which talked about, because Dennis was being told off for reading a comic while having headphones on by his mother. And she said, no, reading anything, comics, they're all good. More power to your elbow, Dennis. And then she makes this reference to anything to thwart these infernal machines. And it's thought it might have been a reference to AI, but equally it could be a reference to screens and people spending too much time looking at movies.
And Richard Eden, she's been immortalised in the Beano that Richard Kay was just referring to, which, for those of you who don't know, is a famous children's comic book here. Good likeness?
Pretty good, actually, yeah. And I think she'll probably enjoy the waist they gave her as well on this design.
What on earth are you saying?
Yeah, no, it's quite flattering. But I love the Beano. It was the first publication that I read as a boy. And the key thing with the Queen Camilla is this, she's trying to get more people reading, this literacy effort.
She cares about it deeply.
She cares about it deeply. Yeah. She's made real efforts, and it's a fantastic initiative. The fact is that people generally are reading less with the dominance of the screen, and children in particular, and she knows the great benefits of reading. And so after watching this programme, go back to your books. And
Indeed.
Well, once you've watched all the other episodes as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is educational.
Yeah.
We're improving minds here.
Exactly.
Surely. Now, whatever the case, while there may have been some scurrilous cartoons in the past, this is, we think, the first time that Camilla has been officially drawn in a comic strip. The royals are more used to having portraits done, and we'll look at a few of those in our famous montage later on in the show. And believe me, it's, as usual, our montage is worth sticking around for. Now, Rebecca mentioned Camilla's visit to Gloucestershire in the west of England on Wednesday. Now, Richard Kay, explain for those who might not know the process, how much sway would Camilla have over the engagements that get put in her diary? So, there's quite telling the charities that she chooses to patronise, isn't it?
Well, she obviously has some control over what she does and where she goes. And she has a list, if you like, of those particular pursuits and passions that she has. We've already talked about her interest in generating more reading in the country, but there are other things which are very close to her as well. And she obviously prioritises them, but there is an obligation as Queen. Her main role is supporting the King, and she picks up a lot of the slack and goes to places where he can't sometimes get to. But by and large, she has some authority, if you like, in choosing what are the principal things she wants to do, and then everything else is built around it.
I love how she uses her platform to shine light on things, and it's been consistent, which is amazing as well.
It has, and she hasn't done too many, and I think that was
Yeah.
often the mistake of other leading royals in the past. They tried to do too much.
And as well as their many engagements, the royal family have been in the news because of a new popularity poll that was published on Friday. Gosh, we love a poll. Richard Eden, let's test your memory here first. Who came out on top?
These polls seem to be becoming more and more regular.
Because people love a poll.
This time it was actually quite surprising, because who came out on top was not Catherine, who personally I would probably expect to be top, but her husband, Prince William.
Right.
Only slightly. Look, they both had very high approval ratings in the 70s, so it's just a matter of digits, but they're still they're very popular among the British public.
Have you got any inkling into what pipped it for William?
That's a very good question. I don't really. I think
Richard Eden lost for an answer. This is a Palace Confidential moment in history.
I'm a bit sceptical about these surveys, I must say. You know, I mean,
Well, don't say that, because we're about to announce our own one in a minute. But,
Oh, okay. Well, but just, you know, it's someone asking questions, isn't it? And what's clear is that both Catherine and William have very high approval ratings.
Indeed. Now, Richard Kay, there are some who haven't performed so well, but it's worth remembering that the overall popularity of the royal family goes up and down at various times with the public, doesn't it?
It does, and it very much reflects the news cycle, who's doing what, who's in the news, who's in, who's out, that sort of thing. You know, not many weeks ago I wrote a piece about how support among young people for the royal family was cratering, and the consequences, what the consequences of that might be. But then, you know, you get a good few days of William and Catherine very visible in Scotland, and suddenly the numbers start rising again.
And I suspect you might have written about the royal family's popularity cratering before. I'm thinking about the 90s, when we all thought it was kind of really near death's door.
Yes, well, of course, in the 90s, things were not generated quite so much by social media, because it wasn't a phenomenon in those days, but people were very much taken by what they read and saw on TV about the behaviour of the royal family.
So what were your sort of memories of, what do you think was the time when you thought, gosh, this really is a crisis?
Well, I think throughout the 90s it lurched from one crisis to another, and you wondered sometimes why they bothered getting up in the morning.
Well, right at the bottom of this poll was, surprise, surprise, the former Prince Andrew, now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, with just 3% of Brits viewing him in a positive light. And we also saw that 33% of the British public felt negative about the royal family as a whole. Any thoughts on that?
I'm amazed it's 3%.
Who are these people?
Yeah, exactly.
Show yourselves. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone rooting for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
Maybe they don't know who he is.
I don't think that's true for a second. Now, Richard Kay, this idea that, you know, there's sort of like people sort of like thinking less favourably of the royal family as a whole. How much do you think that has to do with the allegations about Andrew dragging down the reputation of them?
I think it has an awful lot to do with it. I think Andrew has done irreparable damage to the image and the reputation of the wider royal family by the way he dragged out this whole unedifying process of the last 4 or 5 years. And he is unquestionably a drag on royal popularity, and I think it is the number one reason, why the king and the monarchy acted as they did so decisively to strip him of his titles, his dukedom and all the rest of it, and effectively exile him to a home far, far away.
Far, far away.
So, yeah, I think it has a huge effect on the numbers.
It must be exasperating for royals and courtiers to feel like there's this one sort of like bad actor who's in the royal, but the bad apple in the royal barrel, so to speak, who's affected all of their popularity.
It is. It's difficult for them because he's a member of the family, and this has always been the issue, you know, blood ties and all the rest of it. How do you actually cut someone free who's your own kith and kin? And I think this has been the great dilemma they've had. But there is no question, and at the highest level, I'm told, among courtiers, they've acknowledged that Andrew has been doing serious damage to reputations.
And Richard Eden, I believe you've analysed Andrew's downfall in depth in another video.
Yes, I mean, to go from, being an active working royal, Queen Elizabeth's second son, a trade envoy for Britain, to being stripped of everything, exiled to, a farm in Norfolk. I mean, it's been a spectacular downfall. So we've made a Reading the Royals episode on the downfall of the House of York and really trying to analyse what went wrong and how Andrew was the author of his own downfall.
Well, you can catch Richard Eaton's step-by-step analysis on why Andrew and the House of York has fallen to pieces. You can watch that new episode of Reading the Royals, which will also play directly after this episode is finished. We're so good to you. You work so hard for these people.
I do.
Now, all of this talk of polls got us thinking, as I referred to earlier, we want to conduct our own research with you. That's right, we want to hear from the Palace Confidential viewers. Who is your favourite royal? Who's your least favourite? And how do you feel about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor? Well, get ready to cast your votes because the big Palace Confidential poll is coming to next week's newsletter. By scanning the QR code on your screen now or clicking the link in the description below, the poll will be sent straight to your inbox for free. And there you can let us know how you truly feel about members of the royal family, and we'll then discuss the results of that poll on the following week's show and crown Palace Confidential's fans' official favourite royal. I'm excited.
Yeah, I would say to our viewers, do sign up to the newsletter because I and several others put a lot of effort into it and we try to make it as interesting as possible.
Yeah.
So hopefully people look forward to receiving it in their inboxes.
Do you think I'm allowed to vote? I wonder.
Yeah, of course you are.
Let's hear it. Is that seen as unfair?
No, you can vote.
Yeah.
Everyone can vote.
I have thoughts. Well, all that excitement, and we haven't even got to your comments yet. Thank you to everyone who showered us with love in the comments last week, including Suzanne Oldham, who said, "Hello from the American Midwest. My sister and I love your show and watch it together over the phone every week. She's in St. Louis and me in Kansas City. I would love to see more videos of you guys behind the scenes or even on public tours at royal residences and other sites they frequent. A live show from a pub, tea room or a public royal event would be lots of fun too. Loved this episode with all four of you." That is so lovely, Suzanne. Thank you and hello from all of us here at Palace Confidential to you and your sister. Some very lovely ideas there, particularly into the pub idea. And all I can say for now is stay tuned and subscribe and you won't miss any future announcements because they are coming. And that raises a question to more of you at home. Do any other people watch this show together with others at the same time on the phone or online? Tell us about it. We do love these sorts of stories. Now, on last week's episode, we discussed Andrew's move from Royal Lodge and Linda had this to say. "Hi, I watch your show every week, first thing when I get home from working at the bakery. You mentioned Andrew was on a timeline to move from Royal Lodge and Fergie may have already left. That being said, where are the late Queen's corgis and who is taking care of them? These are things I lose sleep over." Believe me, Linda, we all do lose sleep over that. Richard Kay, please answer this all-important question.
We're trying to find out what has happened to...
we don't know.
No,
Okay.
Mick and Sandy, the late Queen's corgis, the last two that she had, which were, of course, a gift from Sarah Ferguson. And after she passed, the King asked Sarah to take them back and look after them. But what's going to happen to them? The palace have said that they will remain with the family, but they haven't said whether they're going to go with Andrew to Norfolk or perhaps to either Beatrice or Eugenie, unlikely Eugenie because she lives mainly abroad in Portugal, but Beatrice has a home in the English countryside, that's a possibility. Or will Fergie take them wherever she finally finds a place to live? And that's another part of the mystery. We still don't know where Fergie's going to be.
I'll have them. I'll have the dogs. There's probably a bit of a come down for them to come to South East London, but yeah, I'd be up for that. What
These are
about you?
royal dogs, remember.
Yeah, you're right. They're not for the likes
You've
of
got
me.
to treat them right.
They're not for the likes of me. Well, another great question because we also received this one from Dr. Michelle Lambert. "Hi, Palace Confidential team. I'm glad you all are back. Huge fan from Florida in the US. I was wondering if Prince William decided to walk away from the royal family, in brackets, I'm certainly won't, but just occurred to me, would he also be able to abdicate the future throne for his children since they're minors? That's a complicated one, isn't it?
Yeah, and it would mean the end of the royal family, quite frankly. And the answer is no to our correspondent. He couldn't choose the destiny of his children. And the reason why it's not only is it implausible but highly unlikely is that, I mean, William has done his level best to push back on when he had to take up all the royal duties that have come his way. And if he were to abdicate or step aside from the line of succession, remove himself, everything would fall onto young George, and he wouldn't want George to have all the responsibilities that he's got.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting talking point, but A, I don't think it would happen, and B, I think it would be catastrophic for the idea of hereditary monarchy. I mean, it would just end.
Well, I've got another dark question for you, I'm afraid. I mean, God forbid, but if something did happen to William, you know, sort of like currently, would we have a situation of a regency?
Well, yeah. If the king was no longer around either, yes. And who would it be? Prince Harry? Would he be the regent? It could be.
A shiver goes down my spine.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Richard. He'll have to reach for the smelling salts and
Yeah,
talk like that. Yeah. Or Edward?
I think it would be someone higher up the line of
Yeah.
succession, and it's Harry. I mean, years ago when we talked all that time and back in the 90s about whether Charles would shuffle off because he'd been so traduced by Princess Diana and the battle over their divorce, and there was a lot of talk then about the crown skipping a generation when the Queen died and it should go straight to William. But if it had happened when William was still a child, Prince Andrew would have been the regent and would have managed things until William reached the age of 18.
Is that something he offered to do at the time? Was that?
I think he almost certainly offered to do it. I mean, yeah.
Do you think he'd be putting his hand up now?
My goodness, we had a lucky escape, didn't
Yeah.
we? I mean, you know, Prince Andrew, unfortunately, is the biggest argument against the monarchy that exists.
Well, you look at all the lucky escapes we've had in history. I mean, we had a lucky escape that Princess Elizabeth was older than Princess Margaret. I don't think Queen Margaret would have been a great success on the throne. So, yeah, I know we have to deal with what we've got.
Yes.
But by and large, we've got the right person in the right position.
And we could play this speculation game all
We
day,
could.
but let's not. And finally, thanks to all of you who commented on Richard's latest episode of Reading the Royals, which we discussed earlier, about the collapse of Andrew's House of York. This comment from Judy Rowling particularly caught our eye. Wow. All I can say is wow. Richard, you have excelled yourself with such riveting reporting. Don't make his head swell. Gosh, this really puts the whole story of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor in full perspective. What a disgusting and toxic individual he is. The royal family is better off without him haunting them. I love this programme. It's to the point, factual and insightful. Hope this year will give us more of what you are reporting on the royal family. I have a lot of empathy for Virginia. I was also a whistleblower for abuse within the church and was vilified for it. It takes a lot of courage every day to keep going forward. But regrettably for Virginia, her case is so horrific, it must have been far too overwhelming. I bless her every day for her courage. Thanks again for all you do and also the team you work with. Thank you, Judy. We get such an incredible range of comments from fans of Palace Confidential, and we really appreciate you sharing your story and wish you all the best. Thank you so much for that. Now, let's get back to my panel and a return to the royal, formerly known as Prince Andrew, now plain old Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, which still sounds quite posh to me, but there you go. Richard Kay, a report in the Mail on Sunday by Barbara Davies suggests that Andrew is engaging with the process of moving out, but it's a huge task and he's got a lot to move.
He's got a lot to move. I
Yeah.
mean, all of us who've lived in one home for in excess of 20 years have a lot of clutter. And I think royal houses have more clutter than most. In a way, he's helped by the fact that a lot of his furniture, treasures, artworks, carpets all come from the royal collection. Will he be allowed to take them? Not most of them, that's for sure. There won't be room in his new home, which is very modest by royal standards. But it does look like he's engaging with this process. According to that report, Barbara Davis wrote that it was hoped that he would be gone before his 66th birthday, which is February 19. So not long to go now. But all the signs are that the house in Norfolk isn't yet ready. There's still a lot of workmen going on, putting up fences and security systems. I think it's going to be a massive come down for him when he finally gets there.
And then Richard Eden, the news just gets worse because the famous teddy bear collection has had to be whittled down.
This
Tell
is
us about this.
the 70-strong collection of teddies, which Andrew has accumulated over the years and which he's treasured apparently, and it's a big thing on how you order them and arrange them. Well, there are reports that they've been taken into storage somewhere in South London, but according to this Barbara Davies article, that's not the case. The collection has been broken up and dispersed. It's not quite clear where they have gone. Hopefully they've gone to a happy, secure home. But he has retained one teddy, which is his monkey. Now this monkey, don't glaze over here. There's a bit of a history here, because this is the monkey he would use to test the cleaning staff at Royal Lodge. That he would hide the monkey and see whether they would find it and put it back in its rightful place at the heart of the teddy bear collection.
Got a lot of timely sense, hasn't he, our Andrew?
Yeah, but anyway, good luck to him. He's managed to whittle it down to just one teddy.
Teddy bears, monkeys, sitting in front of a big screen watching planes take off and land all day. It's unusual, isn't it? He's an unusual individual.
Those villagers in Norfolk won't know what's hit him, will they, when he turns up?
Well, Richard Kay, there's also a suggestion that you've written about before, that his siblings, Anne and Edward, feel that his treatment is a bit harsh, particularly not just letting him keep the title of prince.
Yes, I mean, Barbara goes into it in a little more detail, and she suggests that Anne in particular was concerned that the king, her brother, had taken away Andrew's princely title, the title he was actually born with. And there is an argument that it was the hardest blow of all. But, you know, Charles felt he had no alternative. He felt that the continuing fallout from the Epstein allegations was doing such incremental damage to the reputation of the House of Windsor. He basically had to cut Andrew off at the feet and banish him and end his royal connections. But yeah, there has been some concern. I think they're sort of fraternal and sisterly concerns. They're worried about his well-being, his mental health, I'm sure too. So I think they've asked I don't think they've actually asked their brother for any sort of mercy for Andrew, but they have, we understand, voiced some concerns.
And Richard Kay, there's also the question of what will Andrew do in his new premises? He doesn't have many connections up there. I can't imagine people will be flooding to be connected. Do we think he'll even stay in the country?
Well, I'm not sure that he will. There isn't going to be a lot for him to do up there. He hasn't done much in the last few months, apart from riding out on one of the late Queen's horses, which I think he'll probably continue to do up in Norfolk. He'll have access to the stables at Sandringham. There are some very good golf courses on the North Norfolk coast, but would fellow members be very happy to see Andrew Mountbatten Windsor putting or on the greens ahead of them? I don't think they would, so I think that might be difficult for him. And my view is, I share with Richard that I think he'll probably spend an awful lot of time overseas, where he'll be more welcome in some other parts of the world.
Gosh, it's so grim, isn't it? And Richard, we were talking about Anne and Edward, the speculation that they think people are being harsh on him, but how does it play out with the rest of the royal family? Because we also hear that William and Catherine think maybe not harsh enough.
Well, certainly in this Barbara Davies article that you've mentioned, she was saying that she thought that Queen Camilla and Prince William both thought that that the king hadn't been harsh enough on Prince Andrew. But I have to say it's a complicated one, because what I had actually heard in the case of William and Catherine was they were worried about his mental health, his Uncle Andrew's health, that they wanted to sort of make sure that he was okay. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? How do you strip someone of their career at the same time as making sure that they're not too unhappy about it?
And do either of you have any insight at all into how do these discussions actually play out within that family dynamic? We know that Prince Philip used to be, the sort of like the head of the family and sort of like galvanise people. What's going on now?
But I was just going to say, from what I've heard in the case of Prince William, he was happy to leave it to his father. He viewed it as a problem for him, and the sort of problem that he won't relish having to deal with when he's eventually king himself.
Charles is very much now the head of the family, as well as being the monarch. It was slightly different in Queen Elizabeth's time. They separated the roles, if you like. So Philip was the paterfamilias and took all the key decisions around the family issues, and the Queen did everything else. But Charles now does everything. And in fact, Charles had taken over many of those duties from his father long before Prince Philip's death.
Yes.
And Richard's absolutely right. William has not wanted to engage with the Andrew situation. He's very happy with Charles making all the tough decisions.
And what do you make, Richard Eden, of the reports we've seen about Eugenie possibly distancing herself from Andrew?
Yeah, so this was a really interesting report in the Mail on Sunday at the weekend from our colleague who wrote that she'd been told that Princess Eugenie has cut off all contact with her father. They said she was so disappointed that he hadn't publicly apologised to victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, it's a subject that Princess Eugenie feels strongly about, and she actually helped establish a charity, the Anti-Slavery Collective, I think it's called, to help women who'd been trafficked. So, very sensitive subject. I've written about this myself, an article for the Daily Mail, and what I've been told is it's not quite the full picture, is that they are still in touch. But what is definitely true is that Andrew and Fergie are helping their daughters by making sure that they're not publicly seen with them. They're keen for them to carry on as close to the royal family as possible, and they know that being seen with them is a bad thing at the moment. So they're doing their utmost to help their daughters by keeping a low profile. To give you a very striking image of this, when there were the photographers taking pictures outside Chapel Royal at St James's Palace when Athena, the daughter of Princess Beatrice, was being christened the other day, when Fergie came in being driven in a car, she actually literally dived down to avoid being photographed. So they really are taking measures to make sure they don't damage their daughter's chances.
Yeah, and I can add something to that. Equally, Andrew himself encouraged his daughters to go to Sandringham for Christmas. So I think that tells you a lot about his thinking on this. He knows that it's crucial for his own family, his children and grandchildren, that they stay with the firm, that they're not sort of isolated because of his own actions.
Oh gosh, the awkwardness all round. Well, let us know your thoughts on this topic in the comments below. We look forward to that. There is some happy news now for a bit of the royal family. We don't hear much from these days. Now, Richard Eden, who is due a visit from the royal stork?
Yeah, this is Flora Vesterberg. Flora Ogilvie, as she was before she married Swedish financier Timothy Vesterberg. Now, this baby will be the first great-grandchild of Princess Alexandra, who was a beloved cousin of Queen Elizabeth. She's very frail now, but I'm sure she'll look forward to seeing this baby. So Flora's announced they're expecting their first child, and it's very exciting. She works in the art world, and I write about her quite a bit in the social diary. She's quite active on the sort of London social scene. So it's good news for Princess Alexandra's family.
And so is this another cousin for the king?
Quite distant. I'm not very good at explaining these relations exactly.
Oh, you look like you knew.
No, I don't know what. I mean, yes, another cousin, of course. Princess Alexandra was a first cousin of Queen Elizabeth. And she's a first cousin once removed of the king.
So Flora's father is a second cousin of King Charles. Yeah.
Okay, well, if that has left you wanting to know more, keep an eye out for more on Princess Alexandra on this channel in the coming weeks. But for now, can you hear that? It is indeed time to celebrate our unsung royal hero, one of our favourite sections. Now, that's where we celebrate a figure in or around the royals, and here's a video from the Kings and Guards Facebook page. Now, according to the caption, the horse bolted and the soldier fell to the ground with the horse falling on top of him Ouch. Now, we don't know the name of the soldier, just that he was from the King's Guards, and the incident took place on the Mall, just outside Buckingham Palace. And as far as we are aware that he walked away, he's doing okay. We wanted to highlight this because being a member of the Guards is an extremely tough job. Richard Kay, we love seeing, all the fancy uniforms, and they look fantastic at all these ceremonial occasions. But there's much more to the role, isn't there?
Oh, there is. There's a serious side to it. There's the ceremonial side, and they stand stock still, either in pillboxes or sentries, or on their horses. And they have to put up with all the tourists coming up and giving the horses sugar lumps and carrots and making sure they're in control. But they have another job too. I mean, they are protecting the royal homes and royal property. I mean, they patrol the grounds of Buckingham Palace. They carry their rifles with a bayonet on, and they have the authority to arrest and detain people who may break into royal property. So there's a serious side. They're also, don't forget, frontline soldiers.
Yeah.
And they could go off with their regiments to see action as and when required.
Well, that's a very worthy unsung hero. Our hero of the week goes not only to that poor soldier in the video, but also all of his colleagues for making royal life that much grander and more colourful. And a shout out, obviously, for our emergency services helping there too. Now, remember early in the programme, I know it might seem a while,
have left the world they were in and met women who will not fall in line with hierarchy. Now, when it comes to Nicola Peltz, I don't know whether that's good or bad. I've not met her. But she does seem very divish. I do see similarities between her and Meghan.
Well, of course, multiple wedding planners, for example, not a good sign, is it? Legal battle with the wedding planners. But at the end of the day, I do feel like I feel like Brooklyn was doing everything right in certain ways. But if he is now going to go down the Harry and Meghan playbook of moaning about privacy while continuing to sell his own life, which they clearly intend to do on social media, I think a lot of people who maybe had sympathy or empathy after the first statement will start to turn. And it is a huge risk for him.
Well, I had sympathy for him and I thought it was very brave initially. But then when I saw these pap shots drop, I just thought, that they'll say, we want to control the narrative. The best thing you can do if you want to control the narrative, stay at home. Don't go to Malibu. Don't go to Soho House. Don't go where there will be people looking. LA is huge. They could have gone anywhere for a hike. They could have had privacy, but they have specifically chosen, I believe, to go somewhere, call a pap, curate these images which look natural, but come on, we've all got a brain cell. It's so obviously set up. And at this point, I'm like, Brooklyn, you've lost me now because you're a fraud. You're like Harry. You want to be half in and half out.
I know. Totally. Now, of course, Harry has bigger fish to fry, you would hope, and you would think. He has returned to court again today under the understanding that he is there to support Elizabeth Hurley, who took the stand and burst into tears. But Harry really wanted to boast about just how well his evidence had gone yesterday. Watch him arriving at court this morning. But here's the thing, he is using this court case as a PR game, which is not going to go down well with the judge. A spokesperson for Prince Harry releasing a statement after his evidence session, which I thought was car crash, saying, today's cross-examination was revealing in its weakness, assertive in tone, but collapsing immediately under scrutiny from Prince Harry. Associated couldn't wait to get him off the stand, questioning him for just 2 hours and avoiding 10 of his 14 articles entirely. Prince Harry said afterwards, "Today we reminded the Mail Group who is on trial and why." Well, the Daily Mail has now hit back at this. I mean, this is extraordinary that this public contest is going on in the middle of a court case, saying it is for the judge to decide what he makes of a witness's evidence, not Prince Harry or his spokesman, and naive and self-serving statements during the trial are inappropriate. But this is all about PR for Prince Harry, because, Lauren, yet again, I think we have someone who remains in the line of succession playing a highly inappropriate stunt today, where he was driven straight from court, where he had seen Liz Hurley break down on the stand, to the House of Lords, which is the upper house of the British Parliament, where Chris Shipp, his propagandist at Woke ITV, reported that he had been seen with Baroness Doreen Lawrence in the House of Lords at lunchtime. He went to Parliament after leaving the High Court earlier, where he had been supporting co-claimant Liz Hurley in their joint case against Daily Mail publishers. Doreen Lawrence will give evidence soon. Well, I'm sorry, Lauren, that is just inappropriate. If he wanted to meet Doreen Lawrence, he did not have to do it at the House of Lords. This is all about putting King Charles on notice, making the monarch incredibly uncomfortable about what his son's doing, and I think it's a disgrace.
I think what he's doing is he is just ramping up the anxiety and the stress for everyone, saying, I can be a real problem for you. You know, I want my security back, and I will continue to play these games unless I get my way. And this is what we see from Prince Harry. You know, you could go anywhere to meet someone if you were having a meeting, but you go somewhere where you know you will be seen. And then when we speak about the comment from his spokesperson when the case yesterday wrapped up, I have never seen anything like that, Dan. This is absolutely ludicrous that it's happening. You just don't ever comment on an ongoing court case. Let's go back to when we were in court with Tommy Robinson. We were so careful about how we reported on this on Outspoken because it's an ongoing case. You can't do anything that could impact, sway, regardless of if it's a criminal case or not. This is just a respect for the legal process.
But he showed
regardless.
Yesterday he has no respect for the judge. He is using this court case simply for PR. And I think one of the things, Brittany, that was most extraordinary is that he wants to make this case about Meghan Markle. Everything comes back to the grievances of Meghan Markle when the case was not about her at all. Now, in case you missed our special edition of the show yesterday, our Outspoken tech wizards have actually made some AI recreations of Prince Harry's evidence. So this was the very last moment, which, by the way, today people have suggested was probably scripted and planned in some way for him to get emotional at the very end when he was being questioned by his lawyer, David Sherborne. Watch. But first, do you remember when you could bounce back without even thinking about it? You'd push hard, sleep it off, and you were fine. Now it can feel like your body files a complaint after a long week, a tough workout, a disrupted night's sleep, even just traveling, and recovery takes longer than you'd like. Here's the interesting part. That bounce back isn't just willpower, it's biology. Turns out the secret to healing, recovery, and resilience isn't just luck, it's stem cells. These are your body's built-in repair crew. But as we age, that system slows down. Fewer cells, weaker signals, slower recovery. This is exactly why Qualia Stem Cell was created. Think of it like this. Your body has a renewal system running in the background, and Qualia Stem Cell is designed to support that system so it can keep doing what it's built to do. It's a science-backed formula crafted with well-researched ingredients, including nature's heavy hitters like sea buckthorn and royal jelly, to help support your body's natural repair signals so you can keep moving, recovering, and thriving. And it's refreshingly practical. You only take it 4 days a month. A simple monthly routine aimed at supporting your body's regenerative capacity over time. So if you've ever felt like your body just doesn't bounce back like it used to, whether it's after a tough workout, getting sick, or just the wear and tear of life, this is for you. Qualia Stem Cell was designed to support your body's natural repair systems, helping you heal, recover, and keep going strong. And check this out, right now you can try it for up to 50% off at qualialife.com/Dan. And here's a bonus. Use the code DAN, D-A-N, for an additional 15% off your order. That's QUALIA life.com/Dan. Your body's built to repair itself. Qualia just helps it do it that better. And a big thanks, by the way, to Qualia for sponsoring this episode of Outspoken. And now, let's get back to the show.
I've never believed that my life is open season to be commercialized by these people. To act in the public interest is to interest the public. I fundamentally reject that. Having my life, like others, commercialized in this way since I was a teenager, delving into every aspect of my private life, listening to calls, blagging flights so they could see where I was going. It was a time when everyone was in competition with each other. To sit here and go through this again, and to hear them claim in their defense that I don't have any right to privacy, is disgusting. They have made my wife's life an absolute misery, my lord.
And at that point, there was this very performative choking up so that we could understand that he wasn't just upset, Brittany, about all of his exes, but also Meghan.
I was shocked by that, Dan, because I really was hoping that the judge would turn around to him and go, Meghan Markle has nothing to do with this case. She has literally nothing to do with this case. All the articles Harry is talking about all happened between 2001 and 2013. And so Harry, though, is also, I think, fundamentally wrong about the idea that the media or the British press have no reason to actually delve into aspects of his personal life. But I'm sorry, they do. He was taking taxpayer-funded security. He was taking taxpayer money to fund his office and various things. And in relation to that, especially because you are so close to the head of state, there is an obligation of the media to investigate who you're having a relationship with, because as we've seen, that has a detrimental impact on the institution itself, potentially, if you don't choose the right partner. And I think we can all agree, Harry did not choose wisely in that instance. But that very end bit was about Meghan was so performative. It was so excessive and unnecessary because she has nothing to do with this case. She's in California. This all happened before her, and she got more protection than anyone else in the British institution, more assistance, everything. And she threw it all away because it wasn't good enough for her. And I think Harry's struggle and why he's so miserable and angry is that nothing will ever be good enough for her. He'll always be in misery.
Yeah, that is one of the big issues, isn't it? It's like Meghan is choosing to be miserable. She wants you to be miserable. But Lauren, could you understand why he made a decision to make this all about her? Was that her demand? Because remember, my reporting is that she's very unhappy about this trial. She didn't actually want Harry to go through with it. I know a lot of people say, oh, no, she's been encouraging this. No, she hasn't. She honestly hasn't, because she doesn't want all of these headlines about Harry and his exes, and she doesn't want him back in touch with all of his exes, and she doesn't want the public being reminded of the fact that his exes behaved in such a more honourable way than she ever did.
Do you know, looking at Cresta Bonus and Chelsea Davy, when it all came up, you realize these girls, I really like them. I think they're very natural, they're outdoorsy, they don't court the press, and they've all gone on to live very private lives to some degree. Yes, they're in the public eye a little bit, but by and large, they go about their business and they seem very happy and very settled. And this is where they differ from Meghan Markle. They are not looking for external validation. They are not looking to court the press. They don't see their value in how much Netflix will pay for them or how many jars of flour sprinkles they don't sell. It's just irrelevant. And you then think, oh my word, Meghan Markle could not be more different to these girls, you know, or now grown women. You realize Harry really has got it very wrong.
Then, of course, there was the predictable dig at the British royal family. Doesn't make it acceptable, though. Watch this.
You tell us that you were aware of some, but not all, of the 14 articles that you complain of in these proceedings at the time they were published.
Yes.
You did not complain, and no complaint was made on your behalf.
Not that I am aware of.
That is because you believed at the time that the articles were published, insofar as you saw them, that the information they contained came from legitimate sources.
To a certain extent, but I would not have been able to complain about them anyway because of the institution I was in. It would have been very difficult. Never complain and never explain.
He just cannot help himself, Brittany. The judge was actually, really saying, just answer the questions, don't make the case. But he had his two priorities. Obviously, the first was targeting the Daily Mail, specifically its editor, Paul Dacre, or then editor, Paul Dacre, royal editor, Rebecca English, and society editor, or former society editor, Katie Nicholl. But secondly, it was about getting the digs in about the institution, the fact that he was controlled. He wasn't allowed to do these things. It is so inappropriate for him to do that in a courtroom. It shows that he is such a little toad when it comes to his relations with his family. And unfortunately, it shows once again why Prince William isn't right. This is not a man who should be welcomed back in any way. It is a man who should be in exile.
He should. And when it comes to the never complain, never explain, there's a lot of wisdom in that because royals live lives of immense privilege. And when you're starting to complain about every little thing, it makes you look very, very ungrateful. It makes people question your existence as a royal. And there are times when it is appropriate to pursue certain legal actions against newspapers and these sorts of things. Catherine and William sued, I believe it was a French publication, over photographs of their family on a ski vacation last year and won that case. It was very, very quiet, though, because Catherine and William are very careful into what they decide to speak against, which is very, very smart. Make sure you fight the appropriate battles, not every battle. And the thing is with Meghan, because I think she was always threatening Harry, if you don't speak on my behalf, if you don't fight for me in the press, I'm going to leave you. He now has this chip on his shoulder and he literally wants to fight every battle and correct every narrative. But sometimes it's just okay to let things ride because they'll die. The more you respond to something, actually, the longer the story goes on. And yes, I think in some ways, the never complain, never explain should be adjusted a bit because I think the royals need to be a little bit more aggressive in how they deal with Harry publicly. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of wisdom there. There's a lot of reasons why they follow it. It has worked broadly. I mean, I think they need to adjust it again, but it has worked broadly. Harry just can't accept that. And he always wants to make the digs because that is how he can deal with this whole situation. Because I think Harry, in many ways, sometimes hates how his life has turned out and has to blame everybody else. This includes his family, includes his country, and includes, of course, the press as well.
By the way, as a little postscript to the whole Beckham thing, I do love the fact, Lauren, there is genuine affection for Victoria Beckham. A lot of it comes from the fact that she was a member of the Spice Girls, of course. And the sort of twist case is that Victoria Beckham's song, Not Such an Innocent Girl, has now soared to #1 on the UK's iTunes chart. There's a